and you are watching Uz Report World News with me, Davron Jumaev. The irrigation season in Uzbekistan is set to use 25% less water this year, according to statements made by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev during a conference on agriculture and water management issues on February 24th. Some 3 billion cubic meters of water will be saved through the introduction of water-saving technologies on 430,000 hectares, said the president. According to preliminary estimates, in February to April of this year, 35,000 to 40,000 tons of polyethylene would be required for the production of drip irrigation systems and pipes. In this regard, the government has abolished the duty on the import of polyethylene and polypropylene necessary for water-saving technologies until October the 1st. The Ministry of Water Resources was instructed to repair and update 3,000 pumps as well as to introduce an online monitoring system for electricity and water consumption at pumping stations. Another item on the agenda of the conference was land productivity. The government plans to increase income from each hectare of land to $5,000 by the end of this year. Mirziyoyev pointed out the necessity of placing crops taking into account the specifics of each district, forms and methods of agriculture based on the possibilities of water supply. The yield of cotton in some farms is 12 quintals per hectare, but studies have revealed that the land could provide even more profit if we grow, for instance, pomegranates, he said. He proposed paying attention to growing grapes, garlic and other crops. From March the 1st of this year, the term of loans allocated under family business programs for orchards, vineyards and greenhouses will be increased from 3 to 7 years, and the grace period from 1 to 3 years. This is the desire of people, the opportunity for change, added Mirziyoyev. The president also urged the provision to agricultural enterprises of 702,000 tons of seeds and 105 million seedlings. The lack of a system in this area creates difficulties for both the population and exporters. The quality of the varieties, the maturation time of the products hinder from getting a leading position in foreign markets, he noted. Instructions were given to utilize the possibilities of public-private partnership in organizing harvest of high-yielding, export-oriented fruit and grape seedling. If an entity buys seeds and seedlings from local seed farms, the state will compensate 20% of its cost. In addition, a procedure is to be introduced to reimburse part of the cost of building lemon greenhouses that use alternative energy. The meeting also touched upon the activities of the cotton and textile cluster. A cluster is an innovation. It can bring high value-added and competitive products to the market. It is necessary to study the world experience and reduce production costs, said the president. The government is to allocate $2.3 billion to the Agriculture Fund for the stable provision of the agricultural sector with financial resources. Some $28.5 million worth of loans is to be allocated for entities engaged in growing vegetables at the base rate of the regulator. Mirziyoyev also stressed the importance of studying the experience of the United States in the field of growing melons and vegetables, the United Kingdom in fruit harvesting, Austria in the field of grain production, the Netherlands in the field of plant protection, Germany in the field of plant nutrition and cell biology, as well as to involve experts from these countries. Preparatory work is underway in Samarkand for the summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. A decree signed by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev has approved the composition of the National Organizational Commission as well as the roadmap with a phased approach for event planning.
A special website is to be created with the updated content about Uzbekistan chairmanship in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Deputy Prime Minister Aziz AlFuttaim said that all necessary infrastructure would be prepared for the summit. It is planned to complete the construction of a new Samarkand International Tourist Center for SCO guests by the end of 2021. The events of the planned summit are to be held in the main territory. According to Aziz AlFuttaim, 8 various star hotels will be built in Samarkand with a total of 1.2 thousand rooms.
Majid AlFuttaim Retail plans to double down in the CIS countries Georgia, Armenia and Uzbekistan. According to Arabian Business, the CEO of the group, Hani Weiss, said the first Carrefour opened in Uganda at the beginning of the last year, while the first Uzbekistan location opened in December. Earlier this month, Majid AlFuttaim said it was cooperating with Akfa Group run by Tashkent Mayor Jahongir Artikhojayev and other owners of commercial real estate in Uzbekistan. The cooperation is based on a long-term lease, it said. Our main goal is to provide consumers in Uzbekistan with retail services that meet the high international standards and best practices of care for retail, create jobs, support local producers, and through these contribute to the development of the economy of Uzbekistan. On March the 7th, the Apex Arena in Las Vegas will host the UFC 259 tournament. The main event will see a fight between the middle division Israel Adesanya against the light heavyweight title holder Jan Blachowicz. Peter Yan will defend the bantamweight belt against Aljamain Sterling and the leader of the women's featherweight division. Amanda Nunes intends to defend the title in a duel against Megan Anderson. Uzreport TV has acquired exclusive rights to broadcast the tournament on the territory of Uzbekistan. The start of the live broadcast is scheduled for 7 a.m. Tashkent time. The Criminal Code of Uzbekistan is to be supplemented with a new article aimed at strengthening the penalties for corruption offenses. Under the new law, civil servants owning funds or property above the amount specified in the income and property declarations will be fined. Uzbekistan's General Prosecutor's Office, in conjunction with other agencies, has drafted a new edition of the law. It is now published for public discussion. The document suggests imposing fines between $2,300 to $4,600 or withholding from wages for 3 years. Following the article on illicit enrichment of public servants and non-material benefit rules, it is also proposed to increase the statute of limitations for corruption offenses by 1.5 times. Airbus is planning to deliver its helicopters to Uzbekistan. The crafts are expected to be used for organizing direct flights between Soch Enclave and Fergana region. The Ministry of Transport is now studying the experience of operating rotorcraft in other countries and training pilots. Airbus International also offered to establish cooperation in the field of airport management in the country. The move is said to be another step for the Uzbek government to boost the airline system. The country has made significant decisions in this sphere for the last couple of years. For instance, brand new A320neo landed at Tashkent Airport on December 31, 2020. Moreover, Kanot Shark Airlines of Uzbekistan has signed up to take 2 leased Airbus A320 aircraft from Air Lease Corporation, and Tashkent is spending $140 million on construction of a new VIP airport. A recent decree signed by the Uzbek government enables producers to buy precious metals on the basis of a direct contract or with a condition of deferred payment for 5 months. The document is valid until March 1, 2023.
According to the new procedure, the sale of precious metals to jewelry companies in the form of raw materials will be carried out by Navoy and Almalik mining and metallurgical plants on the basis of a direct contract or through the commodity exchange with the condition of deferred payment for a period of 180 days and 15% prepayment of the product cost. The companies were also allowed to sell measuring ingots of their own production. To do this, companies must provide a guarantee of the National Bank on obtaining a microloan for the purchase of equipment, spare parts and raw materials for production needs and replenishment of working capital. The loan in the amount of up to over $28,000 is issued for a period of 3 years, including a grace period of up to 6 months.
The U.S. Agency for International Development handed over medical equipment to 12 healthcare facilities in the Sirdarya to assist the region in its fight against tuberculosis, the organization said in a statement. Representatives of the U.S. aid mission to Uzbekistan, National Tuberculosis and Lung Diseases Center, and the Sirdarya Regional Health Administration participated in the ceremony.
The equipment, including electronic thermometers, stethoscopes, tonometers, and otoscopes, will help healthcare providers in the region deliver efficient and timely care, provide rapid diagnosis, and treat patients with chronic illnesses. Thanks to the joint efforts of the Ministry of Health, the U.S. government, and international partners, Uzbekistan has made great strides in reducing tuberculosis cases and associated deaths. However, multi-drug-resistant tuberculosis continues to be a significant issue in Uzbekistan. USAID works to reduce the tuberculosis burden in Uzbekistan and Central Asia by building local and regional capacity to improve the detection and treatment of MRD-TB, this statement says. Anna Meltzer, USAID Uzbekistan Health Team lead, stated, "Today's event demonstrates the continued partnership between the United States and Uzbekistan to improve healthcare services in the regions, including Sirdarya. Working together, we can improve the health and well-being of Uzbekistan citizens." The medical equipment was donated by a U.S. manufacturer, Wells Airline, through USAID's Eliminating Tuberculosis in Central Asia project.
Uzbekistan will conduct COVID-19 vaccinations on a voluntary basis, Uzbek Deputy Prime Minister Behzod Musayev told deputies in a meeting on Wednesday. Vaccination in our country will be carried out on a voluntary basis. If a person refuses to be vaccinated, no measures will be taken against him, he said. No officials or employers have the right to dismiss a person from work if he or she refuses to be vaccinated, he added. According to Uzbek officials, the first stage of the mass vaccination campaign will cover 4.1 million people, and deputies propose to vaccinate elderly and disabled persons, employees of the healthcare and education systems, as well as members of law enforcement bodies first.
In a promising sign for the global fight against COVID-19, the two-dose Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine has been shown to be about as effective in the real world as it was in its trials. On Wednesday, the first study of the vaccine in the wild, conducted in Israel, found it was 94% effective in preventing the disease. It's now 2 months into Israel's vaccine rollout, which has been one of the fastest in the world. Until now, there's been some uncertainty as to just how effective coronavirus vaccines have been outside the controlled conditions of clinical trials. But Israel's centralized health system provides a rich source of data, showing that among those given both doses of the Pfizer vaccine, there were 94% fewer symptomatic COVID-19 cases across all age groups. Nearly half of Israel's 9 million people have already received their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, and a third have already received both of them. As COVID-19 infections fall, Israel has relaxed its third national lockdown and reopened malls, shops, schools, and many workplaces in the past 2 weeks. Recreational venues like theaters, gyms, hotels, and even concerts opened on Sunday, but only for holders of a green pass, a government certificate showing they have either been fully vaccinated against or recovered from COVID-19 and presumed immune. Also on Wednesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said all eligible Israelis aged 16 and older were expected to be vaccinated by the end of March, allowing a full reopening of the economy by as early as April 5th.
As part of its battle against the coronavirus pandemic, the White House on Wednesday announced that the Biden administration will deliver more than 25 million masks to community health centers, food pantries, and soup kitchens. COVID-19 response coordinator Jeff Zients.
These masks will be available at more than 1,300 community health centers and at 60,000 food pantries nationwide. Any American who needs a mask will be able to walk into these health centers or food pantries and pick up high-quality, American-made masks. These masks will be available at no cost. They'll be well-fitting cloth masks available in children's and adult sizes, and they can be washed for reuse. All consistent with CDC guidance and all made in the USA.
U.S. health authorities recommend mask wearing as a critical measure to help slow the spread of the disease. And the White House said many low-income Americans still don't have access. Democratic President Joe Biden issued a mask mandate when he took office in January, as the pandemic raged on, requiring mask and social distancing in all federal buildings and the development of a testing program for federal employees for COVID-19. Shortly afterward, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a sweeping order requiring the use of face masks on nearly all forms of public transportation. Health officials are also telling Americans to continue to wear masks even after they are vaccinated.
It's about resilience.
President Joe Biden on Wednesday took aim at an emerging threat to the U.S. economic recovery, the global shortage of semiconductor chips that's causing havoc within the U.S. manufacturing sector.
Recently, we've seen how a shortage of computer chips, like the one I have here, you can hardly see it, I imagine. It's called a semiconductor, It's caused delays in production of automobiles that has resulted in reduced hours for American workers.
It's just the latest example of supply bottlenecks hurting American workers. Biden's executive order, signed Wednesday, launches an immediate 100-day review of supply chains for semiconductor chips, as well as large-capacity batteries for electric vehicles, rare earth minerals, and pharmaceuticals.
The American people should never face shortages in the goods and services they rely on, whether that's their car, or the prescription medicines, or the food at the local grocery store.
Earlier on Wednesday, Biden discussed supply chain issues with a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers, pointing to the lack of PPE the U.S. endured at the start of the health crisis.
PPE that we needed badly but had to go abroad to get.
Biden has been under pressure from Republican lawmakers to do more to protect American supply chains from China manufacturing. U.S. semiconductor firms account for 47% of global chip sales, but only 12% of production. The chip scarcity has quickly grown into a major headache for the White House.
We need to make sure these supply chains are secure and reliable.
Ford Motor recently said a lack of chips could cut the company's production by up to 20% in the first quarter, while General Motors said it was forced to cut output at factories in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and would reassess its production plans in mid-March.
Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, at a virtual news briefing on Wednesday, said Tiger Woods will not face criminal charges in the car crash that left him with serious injuries, as the golf great recovered from extensive surgery to repair his fractured right leg and shattered ankle.
We don't contemplate any charges whatsoever in this crash. This remains an accident. Accident is not a crime. They do happen, unfortunately.
Investigators were still trying to determine what caused Woods to lose control of the Genesis sport utility vehicle he was driving on Tuesday morning. The 45-year-old was negotiating a curved downhill stretch of highway that authorities said was notoriously dangerous. The luxury SUV he was driving then veered across the opposite lanes, collided with a road sign, and rolled several times before coming to a rest. Woods was pried from the crumpled SUV through the shattered windshield by rescuers and rushed to nearby Harbor UCLA Medical Center. Despite the seriousness of his injuries, medical experts interviewed by Reuters said it was possible Woods could ultimately recover well enough to play golf professionally again.
A chip shortage is biting at Japan's big car makers. Output dropped sharply in January as semiconductors ran short. Overall production was down just over 4.5% on the year, but some makers were hit much harder. Subaru said production fell over 29%. At Honda, the decline was almost 9%. In both cases, the downturn was mostly due to the silicon drought. Car makers around the world have been affected. Chips are in short supply as a result of booming sales of consumer electronics. People stuck at home have been snapping up new gadgets. US sanctions on Chinese chip factories have added to the problem. The effects are not evenly felt, however. Nissan and Toyota both eked out production gains in January. Suzuki and Mazda saw production fall, but didn't blame the chip shortage.
Wall Street ended sharply higher on Wednesday as a sell-off in technology stocks eased and a rotation into cyclical shares, such as energy stocks, continued. The Nasdaq index, which traded as much as 1.3% lower earlier in the session, regained its footing by early afternoon. By the close, the Dow hit a record high in the session. The S&P and the Nasdaq also finished with solid gains. The major indexes staged a comeback after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's comments on his second day of testimony to Congress soothed inflation worries. Karen Pei is head of equity strategy at Fiduciary Trust International.
This is a confidence for markets, a confidence booster in terms of the Fed's commitment to keeping rates low and to support the economy. I don't think that the Fed will raise rates too quickly. I think they've committed to not do anything to sort of disrupt the potential for the economy to regain its footing.
Among the biggest movers on Wall Street, GameStop, The video game retailer surged more than 100% before shares were halted. It announced this week its chief financial officer will resign. The company was at the center of a stock trading frenzy in late January, which saw retail investors drive up its stock, hitting hedge funds who had been betting against the company. Tesla, meanwhile, gained 6% after star investor Cathie Wood's ARK Invest fund bought more shares to the tune of $171 million in the wake of a sharp fall in the electric car maker's stock.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.